Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Deep Penetration podcast. My name is Danny, and I am a self-esteem and love coach. So, if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast or joining us on YouTube, then I want to welcome you. In case you took a moment and you're like, wait, hold up, did he just say deep penetration? The answer is yes. And again, I repeat this every single time. Am I going to repeat it every single time after that? So get used to it. There's two reasons for that. One is because, generally I'm just a fan of puns. And number two, I want to get to the root of the issues. I want to talk about the nitty-gritty, the stuff under the surface, the stuff that, to be honest with you, really counts. That being said, it does not mean that every single episode is going to be super deep and we're going to be unpacking things every time. Some of them will be more casual conversations. Some will be just about general topics, tips, recommendations that you can utilize in your everyday life, in your process of self-development, in your romantic relationships, whatever the case may be. It's just it's a podcast. So we talk about everything and anything. In case I did not specify this, I am a coach who works with the LGBTQ plus community, but this is an all-inclusive podcast and channel. So it is not just for members of the community. If you do not identify as somebody as part of the community, that's totally fine. I think education and knowledge is very important, and I'm sure you know somebody in your life that is. So what is the subject matter for the episode today? And that is, what are the 3 reasons why you are finding it difficult to find that guy, find love in your life? I think it's different for every single person, right? But as a love coach, a relationship coach, somebody who has worked in this field for the past few years and has worked with tons and tons of people, I would say at least, it's in the hundreds, if not thousands of people that I've worked with. There are 3 common things that I have found that contribute to that difficulty in finding love. And I think the first one that I want to talk about is expectations. So often I find that we have these unrealistic expectations going into dating, right? Where we have really kind of painted this picture in our mind of who our partner is going to be. They have to look a particular way, right? So they should be 6'2". They should have dark hair. They should have light eyes, be super physically in shape, versatile, right? Like whatever the case may be, we have this punch list of things that we expect from the person that we are dating. And what ends up happening is that when we put ourselves out there and when we go on dates, we start to go through that punch list. Do they fulfill this? Do they do this? Do they look like this? Do they talk like this? Are they funny enough? Are they not funny enough? And what that really does is it actually pulls us out from being able to be present in that moment and to just enjoy the date and to get to know that person on a deeper level, right? And a big part of that is what we find aesthetically or physically attractive. So often I hear from my clients that are having difficulty finding a long-term relationship, a committed relationship, a loving relationship, is that they struggle to get past the vision of the man that they want, right? So if you show up to a date and that person is not, everything that you had expected visually, then automatically there's already this kind of wall that goes up because you don't really expect it to go anywhere because you've convinced yourself that this is not the person and you want to, find the person. But what I tell people all the time is, number 1, give it a chance. Number 2, even if they don't fit every single thing on your checklist, are you focusing on the right things, right? So are you focusing on the core things that are going to contribute to all the things that you want? Because at the end of the day, what we are looking for is that we are looking for validation. We're looking for stability. We're looking for somebody that we can trust, somebody that we can be ourselves with and communicate with and have a good time with. And if all of those things are present, with the exception of what we had envisioned that person to look like physically, then at that point, for me, I think it's more so, sorry to say this, a you issue than a them issue. And it's important to unpack why you've created realistically those expectations. Why are they there? How did they get there in the first place? And are they realistic? The second thing here, when it comes to struggling to find love, is personal experience with dating, right? Becoming jaded in the dating world, or really just viewing dating in a negative way. And look, I completely understand. I get it. As an individual who has been on many dates and who has experienced some great dates and some not so great dates, and ghosting and non-monogamy and hoping that things were going to work out and they didn't work out, I get all of that. And all of those experiences can actually have a very negative impact on us and make us feel like, oh, there's no way that we're ever going to find somebody, because every single person in the community just wants to, you know, go out there and have fun and approach things very casually. So if you allow yourself to take on that mindset and become jaded, then you will only further perpetuate the same dating issues over and over and over again, because you're already going into the date with minimal expectation. You're already going into the date with this very casual mindset. And what that casual mindset does is that it actually attracts casual candidates. And I see this happen all the time, and I hear clients say this all the time, and I've been there before too, where there's been so many disappointments along the way that you just tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to approach this incredibly casually, and if I find my person while I'm casually dating, fantastic, that's great. If not, so be it. But what you're actually doing is that you are lowering your standards. You are not prioritizing your needs and your expectations, as long as they're realistic, and you're essentially kind of putting up this wall. And in order for you to actually connect to somebody on a deeper level, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be open and authentic, and give that person the opportunity or the chance to show you that they too are also looking for a solid commitment. But again, if you're just approaching this incredibly casually and you're just like over the whole dating scene, then maybe you stop dating for a little while. Maybe you pull yourself off the market. Maybe you just focus on you. Maybe you just work on your career goals and self-development, and whatever your own individual goals are for yourself. Maybe it's time that you just take a step back, regroup, recover, heal, and then put yourself back out there when you feel you are ready. So the first two, again, is unrealistic expectations. And the second one is a negative mindset when it comes to dating, due to previous negative experiences that have potentially led to you being jaded when it comes to dating. And the third one that I find pretty often is unresolved emotional issues. What things do you have that you have not dealt with? And I'm very sensitive to this because everybody has their own experiences in life, right? Everybody has their own pains and traumas that they have experienced. But so often we have a tendency of bottling those things up, repressing those things, and just pushing forward because that is what we are required to do. And we don't hold space for ourselves long enough to be able to process those repressed emotions and experiences. And when that happens, all of those things come out in our interpersonal relationships, in our romantic relationships, in the way that we view ourselves and how we navigate the world and our part in the community. So If there are things that you feel you have not resolved, so for example, maybe you were cheated on and you never really dealt with those emotions. Maybe you had a very negative coming out experience and you never really dealt with those emotions. Maybe you lost connection with your family for whatever reason. Um, Whatever the reason may be, working through those things in order for you to be able to be a whole person so that when you do get into a relationship, you are not trying to utilize this person to fill a void. I'm going to say that again. Working on yourself to become a whole person so that you do not depend on your partner to fill that void, because that's when we start to see codependency and self-esteem issues and anxious attachment styles and all these different things that contribute to the breakdown of the relationship. Now, I don't want to say that all of these things are your fault, right? Because this is more so the self portion of it, the internal portion of it, right? The things that you can control and the things that you can work on. There are also external things, right? So maybe a lot of the individuals out on the dating pool are not looking for a serious relationship and they're just looking for something casual. But we also have to acknowledge that if that was your mindset as well, there's a reason for why they're approaching it that way, right? We can relate to those people because of our own personal experience. So that's one factor. It's also, where are you looking for dates? Where are you trying to connect with people? Are you utilizing platforms like Grindr and Scruff that are more geared towards hookup culture than anything else? It's not that you don't have the potential of finding a partner on those apps, because I know many people that have, but the likelihood is far less than if you utilize something a little bit more serious and that is geared towards committed and long-term dating. So apps like Hinge or, eHarmony or Plenty of Fish or those types of apps that really go through a questionnaire process and a matching process to ensure that you are being matched with individuals who are like-minded or share the same core values. So again, there's the internal piece and there's the external piece. But the three reasons why I find that people really struggle with finding love, like I said in the beginning, is number one, having realistic expectation or having unrealistic expectations. Number two, having a jaded experience, and therefore you approach dating very casually. And number three, emotional issues that you have not dealt with. Those are just a few of them, right? There are so many other ones, but those are the ones that I have found to be the most common. So if you relate to this, if you struggle with any of those, I empathize, I understand. If you feel like you need help unpacking those things, if you feel like you've tried to unpack those things and you struggle with it, I'm more than happy to support you through that process. I help people all the time in those types of situations, being that I am a self-esteem and love coach. I know how to navigate those things and how to help you through them. But I say that to also let you know that if there are much deeper emotional traumas or things that you have to unpack, I always recommend and suggest a clinical therapist, a psychologist, somebody who is qualified to be able to walk you through those traumas and help you to unpack those deeper rooted issues. As a coach, I have my limitations, and I would not feel comfortable going down that road with you, because at the end of the day, my concern is your well-being and providing you with the best opportunity and the best recommendations and the best resources that I possibly can. And for that reason, I always recommend a therapist or a clinical psychologist to help you through that process. But if we are talking about generalized mindset and working through self-esteem issues and building confidence and trying to navigate healthy relationships, I am your man for that one. I hope you guys found this information to be helpful. Again, if you enjoy the podcast, if you feel like this information resonates with you and this is something that you've been struggling with as well, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It helps the podcast. It helps the YouTube channel. Make sure you're also subscribing to the YouTube channel because I greatly appreciate it. As I said, sometimes these subjects are going to be a little bit surface and sometimes they're going to be a little bit deeper. Either way, I hope that you find it helpful. Again, my name is Danny. And I will see you guys in the next episode.